SBC Media.
Welcome to the iGaming Daily Podcast, analysing the news from the betting and gaming industry all over the globe, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market.
The big game is turning into a big game for sports betting operators. This year, we are going to potentially see 3 different Super Bowl commercials from sports betting operators, in addition to a ton of promotions and partnerships. With Sin City hosting NFL's biggest day, will the power dynamics of Sportsbooks shift in favor of the brick-and-mortar companies? We'll discuss that today on iGaming Daily, along with why the day after the Super Bowl could be the most worthwhile day of all for Barstool Sports and its sports betting prospects. I'm Jessica Welman, editor of SBC Americas, joined by my senior writer. No, you're not my senior writer anymore, Charlie. I'm sorry, Charlie Horner, who, what is your job title now?
Media manager nowadays.
There we go.
Yeah.
I'll get used to it one of these days. Before we dive in, just a reminder, iGaming Daily is presented by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. 56% of the EGR Power 50 personalized player experiences with Optimove. Just a reminder, I said this last week, I keep telling everyone, they're like, are you going to ICE? And I'm like, I'm not, but you need to go by the Optimove stand if you're going. Mention iGaming Daily and you're going to get a free Amazon gift card. The free stuff does not stop there either. As another special offer, Optimove's offering new clients a free first month when they buy Optimove. For more information to claim the free month, go to optimove.com/SBC. If you can't remember that, it'll be in the links in the description below the podcast. With that, Charlie, have you watched the Super Bowl before? Have you ever sat down and watched the game?
I've never, and it's a little bit embarrassing to say that as someone who's been writing about US sports betting for the better part of 2.5 years, but I haven't.
It's an ordeal. Even if you're not that into sports, it's a day where people throw parties and everybody just kind of comes because it's a good reason to throw a party. And, growing up, I was not into sports. And honestly, it was all about, for me, what the cool commercial of the event was going to be. Now, I feel like we all kind of avoid commercials at all costs with streaming and whatnot, but Super Bowl ads remain a really big part of the Super Bowl. There's still a lot of discussion around them, and it still costs millions of dollars just to buy the ad space to offer one. Last year, we had DraftKings and FanDuel both doing spots. This year, we have BetMGM and FanDuel have already said that they're going to be doing commercials. Let's start with FanDuel. Do you remember Kick of Destiny, Charlie?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It was a great shame that Gronk couldn't make it either.
I know, because if he made it, it was what was it, $10 million that was going to be divvied up amongst FanDuel players, and then he shanks the kick, and then that kind of blows up in your face. Nonetheless, they're bringing it back, except this time they've got more celebrities. They've got John Cena, and you're probably a little too young for this one, Charlie, Carl Weathers, who played Apollo Creed in the Rocky movies, and he was in Happy Gilmore, and just one of those personas in the U.S. that, he's not some A-list celebrity, but very beloved by Americans. And what's interesting here is this year, you're going to be able to bet for or against Gronk making the kick. And John Cena's team no, and is there to kind of heckle and that sort of thing. Do you think that shift is what is going to make this, substantially cooler than the first time around?
I don't know whether cooler, but I think it's just going to notch up the engagement lever, I guess. Last time around, obviously, it attracted so many users. Obviously, we got the $10 million prize pot towards the end, and unfortunately, that wasn't divvied up. Though I'm sure FanDuel were ecstatic about that. But yeah, this time, allowing people to do the hit or miss, essentially, it gets people talking about it more. We're talking about it now. I guess people at the bar before the game, they'll be talking about it, as well as obviously what happens in the game when it actually really matters, and it'll just add to the spectacle of the game. And yeah, I would imagine the there would be more users or players partaking this year.
You watched the video of him missing the kick or no? I feel like you did.
I might have done, at the time. Yeah.
So I'm curious if they kind of aesthetically change how they approach this. Because last time it was this like very beautiful setup shot. It looked very produced. And then just the way the ball missed was such like a comic arc in the wrong direction that I think for a lot of people, the question was like, was it fate? And that was not the intent of the ad. So I'm curious if they kind of go to a different vibe this time around where, there's like a sideline reporter and it looks like an athletic thing as opposed to this dramatic filmic produced thing, which I think was the one piece of this that to me did kind of backfire the last time around.
Yeah, that's the last thing that you want, especially in the sports betting business. You don't want it to be perceived that your product is rigged in any way. So yeah, hopefully the public perception of it this time is a little bit more fair.
Now, BetMGM has not done an ad before. They are doing one this time around that involves Wayne Gretzky, who has worked with BetMGM for quite some time. Tom Brady, who, is relatively fresh out of the NFL for the second time. So the first time he's really doing anything with a sports book. And then Vince Vaughn, which I will say is interesting just because he had worked with Caesars Casino. He was like the official Caesars Online Casino guy for a while. He's the first instance I can think of an American actor at least kind of jumping ship and promoting a second brand.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's really interesting to see that he's switched over. But I guess getting Tom Brady as well is just such a big move. I mean, I've heard of Tom Brady. Who hasn't heard of Tom Brady? He's like I don't know what he's known as, maybe like the godfather of the Super Bowl. He's won that many. So that's a big name to get. And then it's always nice to sort of get one over your rivals as well. So to poach a Caesar star must be a nice little bit.
Yeah, but also just like there are so many celebrities out in the world. It feels weird to me that like Vince Vaughn, we need him, even though was connected with someone else. What I've seen in the teasers, this seems like a more traditional kind of ad than what FanDuel is doing, which is like a whole campaign. DraftKings, we haven't heard if they're doing an ad yet. They have in past years. But we have heard that they are partnering with Tums, which I had to explain to Charlie and the other Brits is a chewable antacid tablet that tastes like chalky fruit that I guess you guys don't have. Charlie, I could go on forever about this whole concept of the Tums prop bites. There's a prop bite expert that's a comedian that's somewhat popular over here who is going to be making like food predictions. There's going to be a party at Circa. I think the big takeaway is that Tums is a brand that has nothing to do with gambling, and it's choosing to involve itself with a sports book, which is kind of, I feel like a shifting tide. Working in poker for a long time, we always kind of struggled with sponsors because they were a little concerned about involving themselves. But this feels like a momentum shift, if at a small level, that sports betting is so mainstream, a brand like Tums is willing to like actively participate in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Having read the story on SBC Americas, aside from me thinking that I wanted to scoop all of the marketing awards for this year, it's interesting that sports betting is kind of going mainstream with its advertising approach, and having a big mainstream brand like that is only a positive sign, really. It's the same over in Europe as well. Obviously, the mainstream sports have close links with the gambling industry, but you don't see mainstream everyday products and brands going and linking themselves with sportsbooks or online casinos. So it's interesting. It's a big step for the industry, particularly at a time when marketing has been under the spotlight so heavily.
And it's so different just in the past 5-6 years. That the Super Bowl is in Vegas is just insane to me. I lived in Vegas for 13 years, and for a good chunk of the time that I was there, like, you would hardly ever see games being played in Las Vegas because they didn't want to, like, taint the game being in a place where you could bet.
Yeah,
and now, so quickly we've gotten to the point where the Super Bowl is going to be in Las Vegas, and it's just amazing how quickly we've gotten to the point where, well, you can bet pretty much everywhere now, so might as well open up Vegas to the biggest sports weekend of the year. What's going to be interesting, and we, in the BetMGM promotional stuff, there was a lot about the fact that BetMGM and Caesars own the vast majority of properties on the Strip. Do you think, in terms of an impact they have on the feel of the Super Bowl, that they have a leg up on FanDuel and DraftKings at last?
Probably, yeah. I mean, their brands are going to be everywhere because you can imagine that they're just going to plaster BetMGM and Caesar Sportsbook and Casino logos and branding everywhere, all over their properties, all over the Strip. And there's going to be a huge influx of tourists coming in for the big game, and they're going to see all this branding. It also helps that I believe in Nevada you have to go into a retail place to sign up for a Nevada sportsbook. So naturally, that gives an advantage to BetMGM and Caesars as well. So yeah, I would imagine that for this rare occasion, BetMGM and Caesars have probably got a bit of a 1-0 head start over the traditional front two.
Yeah, in the land-based battle of Nevada betting, absolutely. You actually can't use DraftKings and FanDuel in Nevada. They aren't available. I think, too, to your point, as people are staying on the Strip and walking up and down, that if they haven't thought about betting, they're going to be inundated with Caesars and BetMGM. Like I said earlier, DraftKings is doing a party with Tums at Circa, which is downtown. It's not on the Strip. And it's probably going to be tough for FanDuel and DraftKings to even get kind of in where they need to be. They can't really even host parties because, if it's a Caesars property or an MGM property, if I'm Caesars or MGM, I'm going to be like, no, you can't have a party here. Are you crazy? So yeah, it'll be very interesting to see. I'm sad that I'm not in Vegas for this year, just to see what kind of activations are being done around it. But I'm sure we will have plenty of postmortems on that after the Super Bowl is over. We are going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk about somebody else who is probably really eager for the Super Bowl to be over, and I'll explain why when we come back.
Brazil, a global economic powerhouse, deeply passionate about sports, and now home to one of the hottest markets in gaming. And we're giving it the full SBC treatment. Join industry leaders, market experts, and all the major players in the country for 3 days of content, exhibition, and epic networking at the first ever SBC Summit Rio.
Welcome back to iGaming Daily. We talked about the big game in the first half of the show, but Charlie, I think for Barstool Sports, it sounds like the day after the Super Bowl is really going to be the biggest day of the year for them, because now this is rumor mill. Sportico is reporting that Barstool Sports is going to be inking a fairly lucrative deal with DraftKings Sportsbook that is going to be signed in the near future. And as part of that story, it said that Barstool's non-compete that was put into place when Penn sold it back to Portnoy for $1 is over once the NFL season ends the day after the Super Bowl. What was your reaction when you saw this story yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, this was quite staggering, wasn't it? Just, less than 6 months after he left the business, he's coming back with a bang. Yeah, I mean, well, and you've got to consider that Barstool Sportsbook, without Barstool Sports' promotion and advertising, was still a thing less than 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And he's already back in the business that they said was too restrictive, I believe was the phrase, after, with all their heavy regulations and being associated with public listed companies and things like that. So it was a shock. It was a surprise. I think, the entire industry probably share those sentiments.
I had heard that the non-compete was short. But I thought short would be a year. That it is one football season, and that he paid $1 for it. Okay, so he paid like half a cent a day to sit out one, or they paid him half a cent a day to sit out one football season. Is just, it's wild to me. I think it really tells you just how much Barstool and Portnoy had the upper hand in the negotiations of this buyout, that they clearly knew that ESPN was something that Penn wanted, and they were like, well, if you want it and if you need it to get done that badly, here's what you're going to have to give us. Now, as I understand the deal, it's only if Barstool sells in the future that Penn gets proceeds. So it's not going to benefit from marketing deals and that sort of thing, to clarify that point. But yeah, to clarify what you were saying, that you're right, that Penn and Barstool kind of agreed that this was just not a regulatory environment for Barstool to exist in. This is going to be very different in that it's going to be an affiliate marketing deal. It's not going to be them as an operator. Granted, plenty of jurisdictions require affiliates to be licensed. Barstool had those licenses before the acquisition when they were doing deals with like FanDuel and stuff as an affiliate. I think that it's probably where it's best going to succeed, right? You are an arm's length away from the operator, giving them a certain amount of plausible deniability when really stupid stuff happens. And it's still an opportunity for Barstool to leverage its audience that is still interested in sports betting.
Sure, yeah. I mean, yeah. Obviously, it's a less of a risk because it's going to be an affiliate deal. But I mean, like you alluded to, you still need a license, and you're still regulated if you're an affiliate in most US states, in most jurisdictions that are regulated across the world. So there's still going to be a certain level of accountability and responsibility that Barstool are going to have to take. Just a few short months after those shackles were freed, really. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this develops, because DraftKings are already such a big brand in the US. I know it's, we can argue all day about who's number one, FanDuel or DraftKings, but the top two by a comfortable amount. Does DraftKings need Barstool to join its stable, to be clear of the rest? It's an interesting question to delve into, I think.
I was just about to bring up the same question, which is, at this point in the game, Barstool has been shilling for Barstool for 3 years, basically. That at this point, how many people are really left to activate? I guess you could potentially get people who are latently using ESPN Bet because it was just they were Barstool, but like, the whole idea in the first place of spending $500 million on Barstool for Penn was that you were going to be able to convert this massive audience of stoolies. And the answer was resoundingly that wasn't effective. That being said, I think they're still very well positioned with a very loyal audience to be an effective affiliate. Now, they say this deal is worth like low 8 figures, so around $10 million. As someone who has lived in the affiliate space before, I'm going to tell you that this is not guaranteed money. There is you get paid for how many people you bring to the table. And that's going to be at least a large element of what these figures are. There's probably like expectations of what they're going to deliver, and that's where some of this number is coming from. But I don't think that they're just writing a check for $10 million. I think that Barstool will actually need to produce customers that deposit, that have a lifetime value that is worth something to DraftKings before they're going to get that check.
Sure. Yeah, I mean that makes complete sense, but it doesn't make for a a great headline. We want the
I know, we want the
$10 million. Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's changing over at Barstool too. Like they lost some money these first couple of months that they probably. My understanding was that the sports affiliate vertical was one of their biggest moneymakers before the acquisition. So they probably really need this. You saw that Erica, I always say Nardini, but she has since changed her last name after getting married, Bayer Aiden. She has stepped down as the CEO. It sounds like Portnoy is going to remain in charge. Sounds like there's been a certain amount of layoffs in the company that I'm curious how much they need DraftKings as much as Barstool or Penn needed to get rid of Barstool. And if, I would be curious to see the terms of the deal and how much they are just eager to bring in somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the last 3 years, the Barstool business model fundamentally changed by, as a result of the acquisition. And all of a sudden, Portnoy's got it back for $1, and he's still got to turn it into a money-making machine. And, well, if you've got a little bit of confidence that you're going to get $10 million out of a massive deal with DraftKings, then, who is Barstool to turn that down?
Yeah, I mean, they know what they've been doing the most the past few years is selling the idea of a sports book to people. They know how to do that. That I think this deal, as much what was surprising to me was the non-compete. The fact that there's going to be a deal doesn't surprise me at all. One of my questions when this deal was first announced was, when do they get to be an affiliate again? Because that's going to be what pays the bills more than I think like licensing deals for pizza. Although, who knows? I'm not in the grocery game. Perhaps that's much more lucrative than I realize.
Yeah, maybe the markup on pizza is truly great. Yeah,
and then we get some Tums from DraftKings.
Sure.
After
yeah,
it all comes full circle. Sorry,
they're building an empire. No, I think it just speaks to Barstool's ability to convert sports fans into bettors, and DraftKings' confidence in that, and that it can be beneficial to their business. But then just on the non-compete, I know we've said that we were surprised about this when it dropped last night or yesterday afternoon for you. But it might speak to, and I'm sure Penn would say this, Penn's confidence in the ESPN bet venture, that they don't see Barstool as a fundamental risk to their operations going forward, that they would be happy for them to go and be a competitor, albeit in an affiliate sense, a few months down the line.
Yeah, I mean, you make an interesting point that even though they may be sending people to the competition, they're given the only way that they're going to recoup some of the losses that they made on this is if Barstool sells again, which Portnoy has said that's never going to happen. But, I mean, at the moment, if it's losing money, you certainly want the business to be a little healthier so that there's at least the off chance that somebody wants it. So we shall see how that pans out and if those rumors prove to be true, because so far nobody has necessarily confirmed them. All right, what else is going on in the world of SBC, Charlie? I can tell you on SBC Americas, we have literally as we are taping, news is going out that Prize Picks is launching a peer-to-peer version of its game in 4 states, which is an interesting development and kind of follows in the path of what Underdog has been doing. But on your end, I know you have a story from GreenTube on SBC Americas. What else, what's that, and what else can people look out for from you?
Yeah, sure. So I got to speak with GreenTube's Chief Financial Officer, Michael Bauer. And really, we were just talking about GreenTube's expansion plans for this year, some of the opportunities of the US and Latin American online casino market. We even spoke about, the fact that online casino markets in America aren't exactly quick to open. And I think Michael would, he said the markets are developing satisfactorily for them. That, GreenTube aren't in all online casino states. But really, we would like to see more online casino states opened. But yeah, go and check that out. It's a really interesting read. Michael's got some great insights.
Yeah, and you can continue to check out SBC Americas for when and if there are online casino bills and news around it rolling out. But as Charlie's pointed out, hopes are high at the moment, but I think at the end of the year, it might be a little dour of a result. And on that incredibly depressing note, we will catch you next time on iGaming Daily.
Thank you for listening to today's iGaming Daily podcast, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. If you want to find out more about some of the subjects raised today, feel free to explore any of the sites in the SBC News network or check out the latest edition of the SBC Leaders magazine. Happy reading.